Hello, hello. Are we live? Okay, here we are. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, give me a thumbs up or yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, indeed it is this family gathering. Can you guys hear me? Give me a okay. Hello, hello. Check 1, 2. All right, cool. All right, guys. So welcome to the check-in. Appreciate Jonathan Ott saying, yes, you can hear me. Hello, hello. Yeah, Pano saying, say something. I'm saying something. Okay. So far, so good, guys. All right. So I just wanted to let you guys know that there's some cool developments taking place. We can get into it a little bit later. These videos, I'd really like to take the opportunity to look at the month previous and review, and then look ahead to what's coming up. Give you guys a sneak peek. Then also, based on some feedback from the last time, we can get into some cool things as far as like what is the participant level going, like how are you guys putting some of these things into practice. So the most recent month, we started out with the symbolism of story, and that's probably one of my most favorite essays that I'm working on right now, and it's currently what I'm in the works and developing for the Symbolic World blog that Jonathan Peugeot is opening up and unveiling in the hopefully the weeks or days to come. It's kind of in revision. I'm not going to lie, I really wish that video was more popular than it was, because I spent a heck of a lot of time formulating the thought behind saying not just symbolism in story, but that story itself is symbolic. So then after that, I followed up with St. Patrick, and St. Patrick was a reading from the book from the previous video, The Story of Christianity by David Bentley Hart. And that one was a pretty cool story to read, because it gets into more of an example of what I was trying to draw out with the symbolism of story. And plus, it's always good to dig into David Bentley Hart. He's pretty much like the philosophers of living philosophers. Yeah, so Pano's asking, are you writing for Jonathan's blog? Yeah, like I just mentioned, it's the Symbolic World, and it's going to be released sometime or another. Hopefully it's not waiting for my essay, because it's not submitted yet. I'm still working on it. It's exciting stuff, guys. Hopefully a lot of the videos that I'm creating, more of like the polished, not quite final draft, but definitely not a rough draft, essay style videos that I'm doing, will be turned into essays and articles for that blog. At least I'll submit it, and if they see fit that it's good for the blog, then we'll move forward from there. All right. Hello from Lorelei. Good to have you in the chat, Lorelei. Okay, so feel free. You guys can chat away in there. I'll try to touch in as we go along. Make sure to put like question or a Q if you want me to answer a question, and otherwise you guys can chat away. So after the St. Patrick video, I had a conversation with James Cortides, and I have to admit it was the first conversation. I was pretty nervous, but I had a heck of a lot of fun. James did an awesome job. I hope James is going to be joining us today. If not, go check out his stuff on his Facebook page as well as YouTube channel. We went over the cultural synthesis, like a modern cultural synthesis work between the two of us, with some of the books I'm reading, and then having the books that he's reading and some of the thinkers that he's been studying really talk to each other and try to draw them out. So if you haven't, I know it's an hour conversation, but if you get a chance, go check it out. I had a lot of fun talking with James. Hopefully we can have a conversation again in the future. And then the most recent video I published yesterday is called 5 Books That Helped Lead Me to Christ That Were Not Christian. Again, not Christian. So kind of a surprising tale of how I was reading these random assortment of books from all different sorts of thinkers and corners of the world, and how the Holy Spirit was used to guide me through these kind of like hybrid gatekeeper roles. And these books really played an integral part in me eventually leading to commit to the way. And I also draw out how the Holy Spirit is the way maker, as in he's creating opportunities and making it happen to where we can reconnect with the way. And some of the comments from that, Pano, I so appreciated the GPS way of understanding this, where I believe you said a priest or some type of teacher figure said that the Holy Spirit's like a GPS, in that if whenever you feel like you're off course and you know you're off course, then you put in the coordinates to get back to your destination, and it finds the most direct path to do so. Spot on. That's a great picture. Perhaps if I do another rendition of that essay or that video, I'll for sure be including that one. Okay, so that was the most previous month. From the last check-in, I just wanted to share some of the feedback from Andrew Nelson. And oh yeah, so we have, it was a great hour. Thanks, Pano. Yeah. So Andrew Nelson said, something I would like to see developed here within the weekly check-in would be something of a weekly community challenge where earthly tasks pertain to the weekly learning and are set forth from listeners to participate in whatever it may be, gardening or prayer, or what you're seeing in creation, what you're reading in books, and how you're implementing it in your household, and share and discuss the results with the goal of transforming our lives through symbolic understanding and practice. I thought that was pretty good. What do you guys think? Like, if you guys have any suggestions or some examples of how some of these things are unfolding in your life, please feel free to share it. I would love to share it with the rest of the group and we can dig into it. The next one is from Josh Martin and says, I vote for quality over frequency. I think your deeper looks into these things have been fruitful and worthwhile. If you were to do more pop-in check-in videos like we are today, perhaps you could relay something of quality that didn't rely as much on your own work, like a stimulating or meaningful passage or concept from a book you're looking into at the moment, or something you are chewing on that seems to have a depth of its own. Cheers and keep it up. Yeah, all right. Thanks, Josh, for the feedback. I really appreciate that. I think it's an awesome idea. And then the last one was from Gregory Motes. He said, don't try, I'm just reading verbatim, don't try to be someone you're not, basically. Don't be a Paul Vanderklay because you're not. Let Paul be Paul and you be you. So thank you, Gregory. One more update is that I just learned that I do not have access to the post tab in YouTube, meaning I can't share photos or quotes or text or anything because I am basically too poor, at least in the YouTube world that exists in subscribers and subscriptions and likes and views and all of that. I have not reached that threshold. And I'm pretty sad by it, actually. You know, for a channel, let me say, for a platform like YouTube that has so much high regard for equality, it kind of stinks that the little poor people, like the new channels, have such a hard time getting going because they don't have access to the means of production. No worries. So I do have a Facebook page, and I've been more active on it because of that. So I know it's in two different places, but you can check out my Facebook page. It's the same as the YouTube channel, Derek J. Fiedler. And I have been posting some pictures, some clips from books, some further reading suggestions, and of course the links to the videos that are published. So that's the best we can do until I get like 1,000 subscribers or whatever else that I need in order to get that post tab to expand what I can do to connect with you guys. Okay, so I wanted to share something from James Cortides, and I just thought this was super awesome. James, glad you're joining us. Good timing, because I'm about to read a quote you shared on your Facebook page from Elder Paisios the Athonite. It says, the goal of reading is the application in our lives of what we read, not to learn it by heart, but to take it to heart, not to practice using our tongues, but to be able to receive the tongues of fire and to live the mysteries of God. If one studies a great deal in order to acquire knowledge and to teach others, without living the things he teaches, he does no more than fill his head with hot air. At most, he will manage to ascend to the moon using machines. The goal of the Christian is to rise to God without machines. Man, I thought this was awesome, and it really touches on that point of putting these type of things into practice. So let me just check over here what's going on in the quote. Okay, you guys are getting chatty. I love to see that. Okay. So any questions so far? No. Okay. So Lorelei says that's beautiful. Gardens can heal. I'd be interested to hear the symbolism of gardens at some point. Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I didn't have this in my notes, but I just scheduled a conversation, or the second conversation we'll be having, with probably one of my dearest friends, Steve Larson. And he is a farmer gardener by trade. And he's also one of the most profound spiritual people that I know too. And he was the one that joined me on that bike rides for those that were able to watch the video I posted yesterday about the 5 books. I shared a little bit about my story, but he was along the journey for the majority of the way. And a lot of those books that I mentioned in the 5, he's the one that shared it with me. So super excited about that. We will definitely be getting into the symbolism of garden and the application of seeing uh, the created and the patterns of creation within living things in the ecosystem. And he's awesome. He's actually studying the soil ecology to the microscopic level, and what he's seen is actually reawakened his spiritual journey. So that's just a tidbit. I can't wait. We're scheduled for the 18th to have the conversation, and I should be posting the video within about 2 or 3 days after that. Cool, guys? All right. Okay, so Pano, you said I'm reminded of the symbolic significance of gardening in paradise before everything fell apart in the cosmos, a kind of returning to the center. Yep, very good. I would totally agree. I haven't talked about the symbolism of garden or Eden, or really, I suppose the only thing I've gotten close to would be the language of creation. So I'm really excited to be getting into this topic. Ha. Hey, my mom's here. That's Deborah. She says Steve is awesome. He has much wisdom to share. Yeah, and I appreciate it because mom actually hosted Steve when he visited from Ohio. All right. So I wanted to share a reading from my books. Uh, I don't have my books with me today. I'm so sorry. I'm actually recording in my grandpa's office. This is a pretty meaningful place because my grandpa, he prepared many, many, many sermons and outlines and spent a lot of time in study and prayer in this room right here. So I feel completely honored. He uh, went on to be with the Lord, as we say, last year. And my grandma still lives in the house. And today, anyway, it ended up being that I am recording here instead of my normal spot. So I, I don't have my books, but I get to record in my grandpa's office. So give and take. But what I do have is The Incarnation, which is a book that I was able to purchase because people gave me money to go buy it through the PayPal link that's in the description of the videos on YouTube. And so here's the quote from On the Incarnation by Athanasius. There is thus no inconsistency between creation and salvation, for the one Father has employed the same agent for both works, effecting the salvation of the world through the same Word who made it in the beginning. So I don't know about you guys, but this made a lot of connections in my mind because I was thinking about the New Testament teachings, and especially like in John, understanding Christ as the logos or the word from the beginning. And then also the book that I did the 3-part review of, The Language of Creation by Matthew Pajot, how it talks about the language of creation from the Genesis stories primarily. And so I was just having these two domains churning and trying to learn. And then also I read this quote in this book and it just synced them together. And all of a sudden I'm starting to see what I learned in the book in the readings of the New Testament. And if I get to the point where I feel like there's some pretty significant insights or things that I might find that you guys might find helpful, then for sure I'll be making some videos. You guys can let me know in the comments what you guys think. If maybe some interpretations of the New Testament would be helpful or you're interested in, just let me know and we'll make it happen. Okay, so looking forward, I have some pretty exciting stuff, not just the conversation with Steve, but thanks to one of you guys, taking note of my reading list and my gear list, my research list that I have in the description of the videos. I'm so blessed that I received the couple books. One is on traditions and like folkloric traditions of primarily the United States and how that forms and takes place. So I'm excited about that one. Haven't picked it up all the way just yet because someone also gifted me a copy of the DVD of the movie Arrival, the 2015, 15 or 16 sci-fi movie that is one of my favorites. And I've been able to find some interpretations that are super helpful, at least for me, that I think are worth sharing. So I've been working on not one, but two outlines dealing with the symbolism of the mountain, specifically the mountaintop experience with Moses. And so that led me to pick up Life of Moses by St. Gregory of Nyssa. And that book has been taking me a little bit to get through. A little bit slow on the uptake, kind of like Language of Creation before, but I'm like really learning a lot and being able to apply it to how the movie uses the symbolism of the mountaintop and the cloud and the narrow we have, that we don't get to see the whole picture of this great and powerful foreigner, which the movie would call the alien, which of course Exodus would call God. Anyway, that's just a tidbit, but I have two outlines in the work. It works, and a conversation for a third video on Arrival with a good new friend named Benjamin, and he had some insights on how the noble role of the good mother works, or the divine mother. That just blew me away, and we started talking, and I said, "Hey, how about we record a conversation?" So he says he's up for it. We'll give it a shot. So those are some of the videos. I'm also working on coronavirus. I know you guys have probably picked it up. I haven't said that word yet on my channel. I've been kind of wanting to offer some content that might be a reprieve for most, but I think there's something worth sharing because it's a really it's a globally forced Lent. It has how I see it, and Lent being this period of 40 days in Christian history of our calendar where we rest and we clean up. We spend more time contemplating and in prayer and doing less of the worldly things, less eating even, and more thoughts on the heavenly things or the spiritual, the meaning. But now that we're ending Lent, which most of the Christian world is ending it in the next couple of days, and and we're just going to keep going. So then there's this problem of excessive rest or excessive Lent, and what happens when we do that? Then we have unrest, then we have chaos. So I'm working on that as well. So I think I have a couple more. Let me think here. Oh, I have an eschatology and science fiction outline I'm working on that I might introduce before Arrival. Kind of depends on how I decide to sequence that. But I really love sci-fi. I find it to be really like a parallel domain, like religion, that we just take these ideas and push them to their extremes, and then talk about it or share it through story to see what it's like and to problem solve. And I don't know what you guys are doing with your time, but if I have more downtime, I usually spend it with sci-fi movies. All right, let me check in with you guys here. All right, yeah. Okay, so yeah, Saint Paisios is amazing. I would agree, Pano. Nice quote. I did not know that in his mid 20s when he wrote much of his work. Yeah, pretty legendary. There's the how do they say it? Athanasius contra munda, or Athanasius against the world, like where he stood up and really I mean, the legend has it that he was the last man standing kind of thing against a lot of the heresies that came up against how to understand Christ, and he was the one that he was the man's man. He stood up and held it down, and the Christian world is completely indebted to his obedience to God. Mom gives a big thumbs up that I'm in grandpa's office. Generational blessings and gifting. Yeah, all right. Okay. Arrival changed my life in the first view. Whoa, never saw the cloud symbolism. Okay. That's super encouraging. I am totally going to be finishing that outline probably like in the 2 weeks, 3 weeks mark. I know this is a pretty busy, we're approaching a busy year for the Christian, a busy point in the Christian world with Passover tomorrow, which happens to be my birthday. And I promised I would do this. So, birthday is less than 12 hours away. It's also on Passover. And then we have Good Friday and, of course, Resurrection Sunday for most of the Christian world. I know a few in attendance. Perhaps you're on a different calendar. Orthodox has it on a different day. But for the majority, it's resurrection time and Holy Week. And so I'll be putting in a lot of effort to make that happen virtually, as it turns out, this year. But still, one of my favorite times of the year. And then after that, I'll be back at it and in go mode and finishing these outlines for Arrival. But I also wanted to share that the book that really influenced the film Arrival is by Ted Chiang, and it's called The Story of Your Life. It's a short story, and I am listening to it on ebook through Hoopla. If you haven't checked it out, it's kind of like this Netflix meets your library. You can check it out. It's pretty cool. And I have to say the book is pretty awesome. I was able to draw a lot of insights out of that, and it's one of the rare times when I say that the book is really, really good and the film made it even better. I can't think of that being the case or any other examples offhand. So, in pretty tight company. Again, that's Ted Chiang, The Story of Your Life. Okay, so question: how long did it take you to get a basic understanding of the language of creation? Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, a reading and a half. Again, like I said in the review videos that I posted, it took a while to even finish the first reading. I really gravitated and understood the first half, the heaven and earth section. The time and space one, I was pretty frustrated to the point where I was like, this is ridiculous. But then I decided to reread it, and then time and space, that section became more and more clear and even more exciting once it finally clicked. So I've read it about three or four times probably, although by now I'm kind of just zooming into different chapters here and there as I'm seeing them unfold, and I get really excited, like, oh my goodness, I just finally realized this chapter that's been confusing me about how space is crowned by time. And I'm like, how does that even work? It feels like you're taking it to the next level and it's not even fair. But then Jonathan Peugeot cleared that up by saying it's kind of like how a CEO position in a company space, it's a hierarchy. Very top, they usually crown it with a foreigner or the element of time. And that makes a whole lot of sense, because then you won't have people trying to like crab and crawl trying to get to the top, because they're not pulling from the hierarchy. They're bringing the element of the foreigner or time. So that's a long answer. I hope that helps. If you're taking a while, don't worry about it. It took me a while too, but it's worth the read. So take your time. Okay, on Easter Sunday, this is Pano speaking. I recommend you read through St. John Chrysostom's Paschal Homily. It's visceral. All right, so awesome. Thanks, Pano. St. John Chrysostom's Paschal Homily. James. Hey, James. Derek would love to have you on my channel to dig into practical applications from the LOC in your everyday lives. Yeah, yes, let's totally do that. I'm really excited about the recent developments. I saw that you have a new video up that you just published today, James, that had a commentary on the book that you're reading, Eternal or Christ, the Eternal Tao. And got I had to get ready for this video, so I have yet to watch it. But if you guys get a chance, check out James' channel. He's digging into commentaries in addition to the reading of a really awesome book that we talked about in our conversation. Okay, so and also you guys, as I'm talking, feel free to share any of the practical stuff about how you implement some of the lessons that we've gone over in the videos, or the symbolism that you've learned, or how symbolism symbolism even happens in your life. Because I know there's one thing to talk about it, there's another thing to live it. I mean, there comes a point where symbolism happens, or it looks like something. It's in action. Okay, so SFAD, have you read through New Eyes by James B. Jordan? It's very similar to Language of Creation. That one's on my reading research wish list. And I have to say I'm a little bit intimidated because it's an in-demand, low supply book, so it's a little bit of the pricier category. I really want to read it. And once I get through Arrival and Life of Moses and the story of our lives, once I get past that, then I would really want to dig into Through New Eyes by James B. Jordan. Awesome SFAT. I couldn't agree more. If you've read through it, please give me a heads up as far as what I'm getting into. I know Alistair Roberts has quoted it and referred to it many, many times, which is where I got the idea to put it on my wish list of books to read. Okay, so Lorelei, question: do you have more plans for interviews like the one with James? Yeah, so like I said, the 18th of this month, I will be having a recorded conversation with my friend Steve, who I went on a pilgrimage bicycle journey through Central America with, and down the California coast before that. He's also a gardener and has recently had some incredible revelations, seeing the patterns of creation and divinity within the created world. And he's also into regenerative practices, and he has dreadlocks, and he's from Ohio, and he's a musician. He's a very sweet, dear friend. And then I'm also going to be talking with Benjamin for video 3 on Arrival. And those are the ones on the books. I'm open to having more, and I will be reaching out to people in the future. Feel free to make suggestions too if you think that there's conversations that would complement what we're talking about so far in the videos that I've been posting. All right. And probably the most honored guest of our chat today, my wife, Bethany. All right. She retracted a message and then said, oh, she's replying to Pat. And okay, so Pano, I've incorporated this Language of Creation stuff in my high school Sunday school this past year. They really loved it. Okay, yeah. So interesting you bring that up. I've thought about the Sunday school platform because we end up talking about some pretty epic tales of the Bible, like David and Goliath and Jacob and Moses. And those are the stories that are so densely packed with meaning and layers of interpretation and containing multiple layers of symbolism. And I think being able to explicate some of that at the maybe the elementary or the high school level, or even younger, being able to say, hey, do you see the pattern here? Okay, let's read another one. Can you see the pattern here? I think that's a very noble work, and good on you, Pano. Okay, so let's see here. I think there's one more thing I wanted to mention, and then I can open it up to a few more questions. Usually, the mark for these, I want to go for about a half hour, and then once the questions fizzle out, or we get to about the 45-minute hour mark, then I'll go ahead and close there. Okay. So I wanted to also mention that on the Incarnation, the book that I have just finished reading, it's the version that has the introduction by C.S. Lewis. In 1944, he wrote this introduction for On the Incarnation that is totally worth getting. So if you get the copy, make sure you get the one with the introduction by C.S. Lewis because it's superb. And he has a mention briefly where he quotes Mere Christianity. He says, "Oh, so and so," as he says, "Mere Christianity" or "Simple Christianity," which is like this little seed that started because later he then writes a book entitled Mere Christianity, and it's one of the top Christian books to read of all time. Okay. Hey, Josh Martin, glad to see you're joining. He says, "Yes, I get into the casting of lots in Jonah with my 4-year-old twins." Oh, man. Yeah, that seems like a fun scene right there. Awesome, Josh. Yeah, Jonah's an incredible story. I think that there's much to be learned about Jonah. Perhaps I'll do a video on that in the days to come. Yeah, so the interesting thing that happened this month is that there was some cool developments happening in the Facebook digital world. I noticed that because more and more people have time, there's just been a lot more activity in the symbolic world in the zombie apocalypse Facebook group. So if you guys haven't checked that out, I know I recognize a few of you from the group. Be sure to check that out because there's been some awesome content I have not been able to keep up. And then also with Facebook and with YouTube, there's just been more and more posts, more and more people talking about the virus primarily. I'm not gonna lie, guys, like I'm pretty burnt out on the whole virus thing. I think that it's super important. We have to be safe, but I think that there's kind of this tension, this unstoppable force, right, meeting this impenetrable or immovable object where people are looking forward to getting the economy back up and running. Like we kind of have to keep this thing going. Otherwise, the next generation will just inherit debt, insurmountable debt. And then, I mean, that's just one thing. The other thing is like, okay, so we're too la di da. And then what do you know? It spreads all over the place. And then there is no generation to even inherit a crashed economy. But I don't know, like, what do you guys think? I could use some feedback. Would you like to see videos of interpreting and offering some different ways of seeing the developments in culture and what's happening with the virus? Or would you prefer a reprieve from all of that and some more video interpretations and movie analysis or readings from the Bible or something to that effect? I would like that feedback. Also, similarly, I've been able to find a good flow this month with understanding the quality of the content and getting some of my systems in place to where I don't spend all of this extra time editing. I can spend more time outlining and reading and researching. I really, once this whole YouTube project gets underway and gets some steam and momentum, it would be great to have a partner that edits or be able to take care of the kind of like the day-to-day technical side of things, and I could just really dive into the content because that's where my heart is. If you guys have someone to refer, go ahead. Someone with a video editing background or a website SEO type of skill set. All right. So, any other questions, guys? I'd want to open it up at this point. I've said all of the housekeeping, the updates, the developments, the things that are coming up. So I was wondering if you guys had any further questions about the story of or symbolism of story or St. Patrick videos or the conversation with James or maybe some of the future stuff with the movie Arrival or Garden and the spiritual background of my friend Steve or even the 5 books that I mentioned. I mean, that was kind of a hot topic for potentially a controversial one because I don't know, man. There's a lot of people in my world, in the Christian world, that it's black and white. It's kind of like the mom from Waterboy. It's the devil, you know. Yeah, it's a dance. It's a devil. It's the a book that's not the Bible. It's the devil. And I say that warm-heartedly too. I think there's a place for, this is this and that's that, but also having some sophistication to be able to see the nuances of things and to be able to eat the meat and spit out the bones too. But anyway, so the 5 books, it was rather, yeah, I almost didn't publish it, but I had the piece that it was going to help some people. Uh, I mean, I'm curious to see if you guys had any books that were not Christian, but you were able to see Christ in it, or the Holy Spirit was able to draw you into the meaning or the logos, or seeing not maybe the whole picture, but aspects of the logos that even if it was intended to smear Christianity, like the fifth book, Snow Crash, that I mentioned. It's a sci-fi book that absolutely painted Christians in a negative light, but that was the book that triggered me just digging deeper into the scriptures and unfolding those meanings, and I really haven't stopped since then. Okay, so Pano says, "Hey, I'll add you on Facebook. I love video editing and would love to help you out." Pano, that's like a dream come true. That's like the A-team dream team come together. Yeah, message me on Facebook. Again, Derek J. Fiedler. There's a picture of me holding up my 2-year-old, like this. uh, and yeah, so video editing. I'm getting to the point where I am not keeping up with the amount of videos that I would like to publish, as in my outlines are stacking up, and the amount of time that I have dedicated towards this project to edit and post videos is staying here. So, see what can happen. Pano, that'd be awesome. Okay, guys, any other questions at this point? I will open it up, and if not, then we can probably close it up. Okay, Pano says, sure thing. See you soon. Awesome. Uh, yeah, I think that this month has been awesome. I've grown a lot, and being able to interact with you guys has been such a blessing. The comment section has been a great source of encouragement and really has pushed the edge of my learning as well because of all of the suggestions, the reading suggestions, the video links, and the stories. Oh my gosh, I've just really loved the stories. Lisa's story is awesome. James, it was a pleasure to learn your story and background. Pano and Josh, you guys have been integral in sharing your guys' stories, especially as it overlaps with mine. I know Jakey Fakey posted a story, and we got into a talk about neo hippie groups and what it's like. And I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about that in the future because I think there's a lot to learn from the neo hippie, new agey type of groups, the all is one, the open spiritualism. I think they're really onto something, and there's a pure heart in all of that, where they're really intuiting the spiritual realm, but perhaps they don't have the structures in place to really guide it towards the point of transcendent meeting or the logos, to where they can put all of these disparate things together into one uh, synthesis. So yeah, but that's my background. That's where I came out of, and I'm proud of it. I think it was part of my journey, and I wouldn't go back for anything. And it only makes me stronger because now I've seen that there's this whole other wing, if you will, to Christianity of mysticism and the mysterious realm and the aesthetic life, and really understanding the depths of Christianity. Something that I really appreciated in what I've read in Life of Moses by Gregor of Nyssa is that of the sinless life, that where other people focus really on the power of sin and how it limits us, he focuses instead on the power of God to turn us into our image of incorruptibility, to make us like him. So I hope that's helpful. Let's see. Life of Moses is truly awesome. Josh Martin says, excited to see what you get from it. I think Peugeot folks would be in to seeing your thoughts. Yeah, maybe like a full review. I know not all of the books I've read are turning into reviews of their own. I know sometimes I mention them a lot, and that kind of compels me, in my mind at least, that hey, I better do a official review of just this book instead of like using it here, there, and everywhere. That way, it's all in one place for people. Life of Moses is on that level where I'm like, okay, I'm drawing from it. I'm drawing from it a lot. Perhaps I'll do a spot on review, just digging into the content itself. Question from Jonathan: do you know when will the first article on Symbolic World is going to be published? Not necessarily yours. I do not. I know that it's close. I know that there's been steady flow of development by JP and the others leading the way. I know that there's there's people that have submitted, and the editors and the proofreaders are turning those over and getting them ready. So really, stay tuned with either JP or Jonathan Peugeot. Kind of confusing because JP, Jonathan Peugeot, those are two different people, even though Jonathan Peugeot has those initials. Anyway, so I think it's John. So JP is leading the charge there. So stay tuned with either of those sources. I'm super excited about it. I've been looking forward to the expansion of the community to where it's not just Jonathan, but it's a whole group effort. It's a community, and he can really take this project further than he ever uh, possibly even imagined. There's a saying that says, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." Josh Martin says, "It's so dense." Yeah, I know. Yeah, so how many people have read Life of Moses that are in the chat? Yeah, go ahead and give, like, a thumbs up or a check mark or something like that. Because I know Jonathan Peugeot really talks about it a lot, and for good measure, it's one heck of a read that I can tell so far I'm halfway through. One thing that's really cool is that similar to how I drew out the structure, part one of my review of Language of Creation by Mathieu Peugeot, is how his structure actually is symbolic of the symbolism that he's talking about. Life of Moses is like that because he takes the what's called the Historia, and that's like the like how I talked in the symbolism of story. That would be like the historical, the facts, the events. So like the earth level. But then the next part, I think it's called the Theoria, is like the spiritual meaning or the heavenly attributes. And then he brings those all together. So it's like earthly facts and events come together with the higher level of meaning, and those things come together into his story, the life of Moses. Okay, James has a recommendation. I have to recommend Timothy Patitsas, The Ethics of Beauty. Yeah. Thanks for sharing some of the clips from that book. I'm looking forward to reading it. And I know that Jonathan Peugeot also had an interview with Timothy. So you guys go check that out. Okay, Jonathan says, one thing that stuck out to me was his description of arrogance as downward ascent. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. James, go ahead and tune into that one because I've only read a couple pages, the ones that you sent me from The Ethics of Beauty. Okay, guys, so any other questions? Otherwise, I'll go ahead and wrap this up for the evening. Maybe I'll do this one more time. Woo! Just brought back a lot of memories. Pretty emotional day for me today. I'm getting some okay, loose connection. So I think it might be good to go ahead and end the stream pretty shortly here.